Hey everybody, Dr. Lenny Roberts here with a dear friend of mine who we go way back. Actually, I think your husband sold me my first iPhone 100 years ago there. This is
Right.
our dear friend Alexis Newman. Hey Alexis, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello.
So our initial iPhone encounter with her husband turned into getting to know this young lady on a personal and professional level. She was a dietitian in our office for quite some time. And then she had a beautiful baby girl and went a different direction, but always great to see you. Alexis, tell us what's going on.
Yes, so I am a dietitian, and right now I am taking clients, and I just wanted to come talk with everyone about this whole sheltering in place and eating all the time. So I know I'm sorry about that. I'm a stress eater at times. And I think it's important to be aware of that, right? So if we can't acknowledge what we're doing, acknowledge what's happening, I think that we can end up emotionally in a bad place, spiritually in a bad place. So it's really important to acknowledge that. So I think the reality is we're all stressed from one end, maybe to not as much stress to very stressed out because we had to up in our whole entire lifestyle. So what I have found to be very, very helpful is really trying to plan ahead. That was something I would do prior to this whole shelter in place thing. But I've been taking it a lot more seriously just because I know when I'm stressed out, I want the chocolate, I want the chips, I want to have the extra glass of wine. And if I do that every single day as a coping skill, it's not good for our health. It's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our physical health. It's not good for our spiritual health. So it's really important that we come up with a plan to address these emotions that come up, to address these feelings without just emotionally eating. So number one is try and sit down once or twice a week and think about what you would like to have for breakfast, what you'd like to have for lunch and dinner. Ideally, when we're thinking about these meals, we would like to have protein at every single meal. Protein is so important because it helps us feel full for a long time. So if we do have an urge to eat, it's not out of hunger, and we can kind of play and be wise about that. So always have protein. Next is the vegetables. We want to try and have vegetables at least a minimum at 2 of your 3 meals, if not all 3 meals. And they provide the super nutrients called micronutrients or antioxidants. And in this time, it's really important that we fill up on them. So half your plate should be vegetables to help fight viruses, bacterias. It's going to also have lots of fiber in there. So it's going to help keep us full along with the protein. And next is carbohydrates. I know carbs have gotten a bad rep in social media lately, but having some carbs throughout the day that are full of vitamins, minerals, and fiber is going to also help round out our meal so that we're not always craving the sweet treats and the cakes and the cookies, the chips and things like that. So that's tip number one, plan ahead, make sure your meal is well balanced. Awesome. I think tip number 2 I really like is to plan for the emotion. So if you know that you get a little bit more stressed out towards the end of the day, you're tired, really have a list of things that you can do instead of eating. So for me, going for walks are very therapeutic. It helps me calm down. I have multiple Marco Polos with a lot of different friends, getting on them and chatting about the day, sending silly memes are really helpful. Talking to my husband about what's happening emotionally is also helpful. So really coming up with a plan of how you want to deal with your emotions. Awesome. And tip number 3, I would say try and get active in some way. I know Dr. Lenny has been showing exercise that you can either do in a chair, or I know I got an email from the practice about yoga once a week. Mm-hmm. So I really believe getting active actually helps release a lot of that internal anxiety, and that's going to help you prevent from emotional eating or overeating later on in the day. And those are all tips that I have been working towards. I am not perfect by any means, but these are the goals that I try and achieve during this time.
Awesome.
So
Helpful. Cool. Could you give us
yeah.
maybe one example? You mentioned the carb thing, and if someone's looking for, what's your like go-to carb snack that isn't, you know, chips, and something that we could recommend for somebody that might be looking to go vegetable? What's your
Yeah, my go-to recently are those little mandarin oranges.
Okay.
They're sweet. You know, they have healthy carbs in it. They have vitamin C, which is really great for the immune system. I've been also eating a lot of my daughter's apples. Again, high fiber. They have the crunch. So sometimes I'm looking for that crunch. Another carb, it's a carb and protein mix. I love yogurt. And that kind of gives me the carbs with some fat and protein. So that really helps me feel full for a long time.
Awesome. Super helpful. We
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing your tips, Alexis. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing. I guess you're doing some virtual consulting now. And,
Yes.
And what type of clients do you typically see? And I know you've seen a lot of different ones in our office, but tell us what do you, I know you have some unique subspecialties, I guess, but what's your...
Yeah. So right now, most health insurances are covering virtual visits up until mid-June. So right now, I am credentialed with United Healthcare, Independence Blue Cross, and Cigna, and they all provide I don't know specifically each insurance, so you should, if you're interested, check your insurance to see. Right now, my specialty is emotional eating and working with people who are really struggling with that. I like to kind of call myself more of like the wellness dietitian. I don't only focus on just the food aspect. I like to touch in about support system, where the root of why you're emotionally eating. Another specialty is I work with individuals who have either type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes and trying to get their blood sugars under control. But those are kind of the type of client that I like to work with. I really like meeting my clients where they are. So if you're not at the place of half your plate vegetables, a little protein, a little carbs, it may look like a lot of carbs, no vegetables, and some protein. Like, I'm willing to work with where you are. Awesome. And figuring out a plan that works best with you.
Love it. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll put together a little tag at the end here just so people can get in touch with you with your email and get hold of you. But always awesome to see you, dear. And
yes,
my best to your beautiful baby girl and your handsome husband there. And hope to catch you in person real soon and catch up.
All right. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Appreciate you as well. And always good to see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.